What books have you read this summer? I have read a whole bunch. Actually, some of these I read in the spring. So most of these I read on audiobooks, but there's one that I didn't. Most of these are nonfiction with the exception of one. And let's get started. Oh, if you saw the thumbnail, yes, I will be talking about that book. I'm saving it for the very end because I will spend the most time on it. Reading this one right now. I haven't finished it. So, American Sniper, this is the autobiography of Chris Kyle. As most of you know, if you know the story, unfortunately, he is no longer with us. There was a movie made about his life too, so I already saw the movie. A lot of this coincides with the movie. I highly recommend it. It was 14 hours and I'm only 4 hours left, so I haven't finished, but I also saw the movie, which was really good, and a lot of it goes along together. There are times he goes into a lot of detail about maybe the type of gun that he uses, when he's a sniper, and I'm not interested in that, so I'll just put it on 2 times until that part's over, and I'll go back to listening on regular speed. So highly recommend that one. There's another one I'm in the middle of reading. Now, this one I'm actually reading as opposed to the audiobook. So it takes me a little longer. I don't always have time to read. I read when I'm on vacation or at the doctor's office. But let me see. How far along am I with that book? I'm about 70% done. So here, A First Responder's Harrowing Account of 9/11, the inspirational true story of an American hero who gave nearly everything for others during one of New York City's darkest hours. So obviously we know, because there's a book, that he lived to tell the story. So we already know that. It's kind of like when you watch the Titanic, the ship's going to sink. So we know he gets out because he obviously wrote a book. Where I'm at in the story right now, the tower has collapsed on him and he's stuck in there and trying to message to people to get out. I guess the way it fell, there was kind of a pocket where he and some other people that were with him were able to still survive. He is calling on the walkie-talkie, "Mayday, Mayday." He finds out later, everybody else was too busy helping people and in their own crisis. But eventually somebody does hear him and come. And that particular person, later said, I was so... we lost so many firefighters that I was just happy that there was somebody that I could help that day. Women in White Coats, how first women doctors changed the world of medicine. So this is really good. This was like way back when women weren't allowed to become doctors, and some of the very first women to become doctors and what they had to go through. A lot of them faced discrimination just getting through college. So, for example, they went to the college, but they weren't allowed to attend class. So they basically had to teach themselves. They basically had to pay for college to teach themselves to get the degree. And even then they got a lot of pushback. But it's all different it's all different doctors. So it's not all of them that know each other. They all might live in different places or be from slightly different time periods. But here, I'll just read you this for the fans of Hidden Figures and Radiant Girls. And then in the 1800s, women were dying in large number from treatable diseases because they avoided receiving medical care. Examinations performed by male doctors were often demeaning and painful. In addition, women face stigma from illness. All right, so we're experiencing this now. Paula, have you ever been to a male doctor and you felt like they just didn't understand you because, they don't understand women's issues? And I know women's have been dealing with this for years and years, and I'm glad there's more women doctors now. But this book is about the women that pioneered women doctors, women getting into being doctors. Oh my, yes. Every woman knows what I'm talking about. The Bravest Voices, a memoir of two sisters' heroism during the Nazi era. Can you tell I have been reading a lot about the Nazi era. I guess there's current events going on with Israel, Palestine. So, feels like it's relevant lately. All right. This timeless memoir documents two sisters' bravery leading up to World War II. Ida and Louise Cook are two ordinary English women seemingly destined to never stray from their quiet London suburb. Ida, budding romance novelist. In 1923, a chance hearing of sparked a passion for the opera sisters that led to a formation of friendships with Europe's leading singers and their network of Jewish. Here we go. As the Nazis rose to power, Ida and Louis began working with the opera's world insiders to save members of the community from persecution and death. Through ingenuity, thrift, and bottomless goodwill, the sisters eluded the suspicion of the Nazis. So, another one based in the same time period as the last one. The Great Gatsby. Now, look who it's narrated by. Leslie Odem Jr. Do you know who that is? He played Aaron Burr in Hamilton, the one that was on Disney. So he doesn't sing. He is just speaking, narrating. I want him to sing. But the reason I'm showing you the Apple version is because the version narrated by Leslie Odom is only on Apple Books. And it's actually free. So Apple Books will give you classics for free. And here's the reason I wanted to read this one. I saw The Great Gatsby on Broadway. Then I wanted to read the book. I'm with a cousin. Oh, that's my daughter and I waiting for the train. That's my daughter and my sister. Yeah, and The Great Gatsby was good. I've seen a lot of Broadways. It's up there. It's up there. Not the best, but it's up there as far as really, really good ones. Uptown Girl, a memoir. So the Christie Brinkley book. I listened to the audio version. Of course, what do most of us want to know about? Her relationship with Billy Joel. But it takes a while actually into the book for her to get to that, because that happens. Well, actually, she's 30 when she marries him, which is not that old, but she's got a lot that happens to her before she hits 30. I was reading the book, I'm like, and they said something about her 30th birthday when she's with Billy Joel. I'm like, 30? Whoa! Because a lot happens. You think definitely she's got to be older. She already has, I think, 2 divorces. I'm trying to remember at least 3 relationships. 1 divorce. 1, I can't remember if it was a divorce or they never got married. I think divorce. And then she has a husband who dies. So she's 2 divorces and a widow before she's 30, before she even meets Billy Joel. Is that not crazy? The Woman in the Car in the Chevy Chase vacation movies. Yes, and she talks about that in the book. She does get to that. That happens way after Billy Joel. Oh, yeah, she talks about how she never ever will do nudity. So she didn't want to do nudity for that. And they asked her to take off her top and she didn't want to do it. And then there's somebody else, a friend of hers on the set, volunteered to do it. So instead they did the scene where she just throws her top at Chevy Chase and he has the big eye. So that's how they got around it without her actually having to take off her clothes. Good for her for standing firm. Yes. Yep. She did stand her ground. Okay. So she goes to Paris and marries someone named hopefully I'm saying it right, Jean-Francois. I can't do French very well, and I did take French in high school. And she meets him in Paris, and I think that's where she becomes a model. If I get some of the details fuzzy, forgive me, because I listened to this while I'm in the car, so I can't really take notes. So I'm trying to go off memory. So if anyone did read the book, or and I get any of the details wrong, go ahead, give me a comment. Say, no, it actually happened like this. But anyways, her becoming a model is the dream that everybody, somebody was discovers her and oh, you should be a model. And that's kind of how she started her own modeling thing. She ends up marrying him. They move to New York City, which he's from Paris, but he always wanted to move to the United States and New York, and then just things didn't work out. I don't know. They just grew apart. It seems like she had another relationship, and I don't know. That one's insignificant enough that I don't even remember. But she ends up marrying a NASCAR driver. Do any of you remember? I honestly don't. I don't pay attention to celebrity news. I know I'm reading books about people, but like when, I don't pay attention to celebrity news. So, but she marries a NASCAR driver, and he loved adventure, and he was a daredevil. Obviously, you need that kind of personality to be a NASCAR driver. And he ends up dying. And so she's going through a huge tragedy of her husband dying. And that ends up being when she meets Billy Joel. I think they met like at another time where they kind of met each other, but nothing happened. I think she was with her NASCAR driver and he was with somebody else. And, it was like, I think he kind of heard that her husband died and then started swooping. And I mean, this kind of happened to her a lot, but she is Christie Brinkley. So I guess a lot of men would be like, oh, what? She has a divorce. Her husband died. I think I'm going to swoop in. So that's kind of when Billy Joel swooped in. Now, let's see. What was significant about... Okay, do you guys remember? She talked about Billy Joel and his USSR concert. And I actually watched a documentary about that right before coming on to kind of prepare for this. So he ends up he spends $2 million of his own money to put on this concert in the USSR to kind of, and that was during the Cold War, to kind of bridge the gap. Now, she says in the book, and I did think this was a little arrogant. I don't know about this. You could tell me your opinion. But she's like, Billy Joel and his concert, going to the USSR helped to break down barriers and end the Cold War. I'm like, okay, that's a little arrogant to think Billy Joel ended the Cold War, but okay. I think it's wonderful that he did the concert and it bridged gaps and it, I think it was a good thing, but to say that he ended the Cold War, okay. But then she talks about this in the book, but I also went to look for video footage and I could find it. But at one point, he gets really mad about something that happened at the concert and he starts throwing microphones around. She said something almost flew by her, almost hit her in the head. And later he said, oh, that was just where the show was meant to be. I doubt it, because I don't think he would have almost accidentally hit his wife in the head. And it was funny if you watch the video. Wait till this is over, but then go Google it and look for the video where the band that was playing, they just kept playing. The show went as if nothing happened. The show must go on. They just kept playing. And he's throwing microphones and yeah, really. I was like, okay, you're really saying in this book that Billy Joel stopped the Cold War. Okay. But okay, when she's married to him, they have one child. Her name's Alexa Ray. She took after Billy Joel with being able to sing. I think I remember a few years ago just reading a little bit about her and how she's trying to become an up-and-coming singer. And then, of course, I did look for it on YouTube and found some video footage of her singing and saw an interview of her and her mom, which she does have some other kids later, but she talks most about Alexa Ray in this book. So part of the problems with Billy Joel is that he starts drinking, he starts getting a drinking problem, and that becomes a problem. He ends up staying out all night and not coming home. And this was the days before cell phones, so she just wouldn't come home and she didn't know where he was. yeah, he'd leave all night or for a couple days or something, and or his drinking would cause him to do crazy things. There was a fight she talks about in the book, and the way the book describes it, it was just a verbal fight, but it's weird because then she says things like, oh, he promised to never do it again. It's almost like she was implying that he physically did something to her, but yet she never says it. But again, I have no proof of that. The book doesn't explicitly say it. I'm just saying maybe, you know? So he ends up, he cheats on her. She keeps seeing rumors of cheating. Of course, he always denies it. No, until one point, like, you know, he can't deny that he didn't cheat. And then I think they were still going to work things out. During this time of his drunkenness and cheating, he wrote Go to Extremes. I don't know why I go to extremes. She's like, I don't know what he was talking about. Or I often wonder what he meant. Probably, you know, his drinking and cheating. That's when he wrote We Didn't Start the Fire. So Christie Brinkley ends up being in a helicopter crash, which is crazy. Her daughter and Billy Joel were not on the helicopter with her. Obviously, she survives because we know she's still alive today. But it was a pretty bad crash that they had to be rescued from, and there were some people that died and severe injuries. I guess Billy Joel like flew to be with her, but then I think he thought she was asleep, and he's on the phone and he says something like, she needs me here now because she was in the crash, but don't worry, I'm not going back to her. So in other words, he's staying with the woman he ends up leaving her for. Like, she was hoping he'd be like, oh, you were in a plane crash, I love you, let's work this out. And that didn't really happen. I remember reading a magazine interview she gave about that crash. Yeah, so she's been through a lot of divorces, a death, a plane crash. I couldn't imagine surviving a plane crash or a helicopter crash, but it was like during a ski incident. So they divorce. She marries somebody else. Forgot this other guy's name. Again, I didn't take notes because I'm listening to this as I'm driving. But she has 2 kids with him. They're quite a bit younger than Alexa Ray that she had with Billy Joel. But this guy kind of was a jerk. He was always using her for her money. She paid for everything. He was always asking to borrow money, never paid her back. And I think she ended up divorcing him, and he dragged it out in court. I think that must have made news in the 90s. I guess I don't really listen to celebrity news again, but you may have heard about that one. She said her first thought was her face. Understandable, since her looks were her living as a model. Yes. Yep, I could understand that. First ended up making a lot of news, being dragged out, in all the news, and he kept bringing her back to court and dragging her through it. And it was hard on her kids. So yeah. And then kind of towards the end, she talks about dying parents. I think she's in her 60s now. So, 50s is when it starts happening for a lot of people, parents dying, and parents getting sick. So that's that book in a nutshell. You can read it yourself to get more of the details, because, of course, I'm leaving out a lot of details. It was a long book. But here's a little bit about it. I'm showing you Amazon just because it's easier to show, but I read it on Apple Books. It's only $4.99 on Apple Books. Thanks for coming live, Paula and Mike. Thanks for anyone that watches this later. Tell me what you're reading. Bye, everyone. See you next time.